classroom was always full of chatter, yet there was one corner that seemed quieter than the rest. That was where Daniel sat, a boy of 15 whose presence was often overshadowed by the louder voices around him. He rarely raised his hand, never volunteered, and when called upon, his words came out faint, as if afraid to disturb the air. His notebooks were filled with writing, though no one paid much attention. He believed his thoughts were too small to matter, so he kept them tucked away like secrets that might dissolve under the weight of the world. Daniel often wondered if anyone even noticed him. Walking through the halls, he blended in like a shadow, invisible, neither mocked nor praised, simply overlooked. To some, that might have felt safe, but to him, it was a reminder that his voice had no place. Each time he heard others confidently sharing their ideas, he felt a heaviness pressing deeper inside, convincing him that he wasn't enough. He had dreams, but they were fragile, hidden like paper boats that would sink the moment they touched the water. At home, his parents were busy with work, often too tired to notice his silence. His classmates didn't bother much, thinking his quietness meant he preferred solitude. In truth, Daniel longed for someone to say that his words mattered, that his voice was worth hearing. He didn't need applause, only a sign that he wasn't invisible. But as days passed into weeks, the silence around him grew louder. One afternoon, the teacher assigned the class a creative writing task. While the others sighed and scribbled reluctantly, Daniel felt something stir inside. Writing was the one place he could be free, when no one interrupted or judged. His pen moved quickly, pouring out a story filled with images he never dared to speak aloud. He wrote late into the night, carefully choosing each word, unsure if it would ever be enough. When the day came to hand in their work, Daniel placed his paper on the teacher's desk quietly, slipping away before anyone noticed. He assumed it would be read, graded, and forgotten, just like everything else he did. Still, a small hope lingered, fragile but persistent, that maybe this time his voice would find a place beyond his notebook. That night, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Daniel wondered if words really mattered. Could a sentence carry enough weight to change someone's life? Or were they just sounds, fading the moment they left the tongue? He did not know then that soon, a single sentence would change everything. The following week, the teacher walked into class holding a stack of papers. She began returning the assignments, each one marked with notes in her neat handwriting. Daniel kept his head down, his heart beating faster than usual. He wasn't expecting anything different, just another paper returned with a grade scribbled in red. When his name was called, he reached out cautiously, almost reluctant to take it. As the class settled, the teacher paused. Her eyes scanned the room before she spoke. She said that among the many stories she had read, one stood out. It was written with honesty, emotion, and a voice that could not be ignored. For a moment, Daniel didn't realize she was talking about his work. Then she looked directly at him, and in a calm, steady tone, she said the words that would echo inside him for years. "You have talent." Daniel froze, his chest tightening. He wanted to look away, but something in the teacher's gaze held him still. Around him, the chatter of his classmates dimmed into silence. For the first time, he wasn't invisible. Someone had seen him, not the quiet boy who blended into the background, but the writer, the thinker, the creator he never thought he could be. Those three words, so simple, so ordinary, felt like light breaking through a long, heavy fog. Daniel repeated them in his head again and again, as if afraid they might vanish if he stopped. "You have talent." Could it be true? Could his words, the ones he had hidden in notebooks and scribbled in secret, really hold something of value? That night, he pulled out his notebook once more, but this time, his pen didn't tremble. He wrote with a new energy, as though every sentence carried the possibility of being seen, of being understood. He began to imagine a future where his words reached beyond the page, where they might touch someone else the way his teacher's words had touched him. It wasn't as if all his doubts disappeared instantly. He was still shy, still afraid of making mistakes, but now there was something stronger inside him, a spark. And like all sparks, it only needed a little air to grow into flame. He realized something profound in that moment. Words could carry weight far beyond what we imagine. They could wound, yes, but they could also heal, lift, and awaken something dormant. His teacher's small sentence had become a seed planted in the soil of his heart. And for the first time, Daniel believed that maybe, just maybe, he could grow into more than the shadow he thought himself to be. In the weeks that followed, Daniel carried himself differently, though the change was subtle at first. He still sat in the same corner of the classroom, but now his eyes lifted more often, meeting the world instead of hiding from it. When group projects came, he no longer tried to fade into the background. Instead, he contributed his ideas, carefully at first, but with a quiet certainty that surprised even himself. His words, once trapped in silence, began to find their way into conversations. The teacher continued to encourage him, sometimes with nothing more than a nod or a smile, but that was enough. Every small gesture added strength to the foundation built by her first words. Daniel discovered that confidence didn't arrive all at once. It came like morning light, slowly chasing away the darkness. Each day he allowed himself to step a little further out of the shadows. His classmates started to notice too. One afternoon, when they were assigned to share short passages aloud, Daniel's voice no longer trembled the way it once had. There was still a trace of nervousness, but beneath it lay something steady. A classmate turned to him afterward and said his story was beautiful. It was the first time anyone his age had said something like that to him, and Daniel carried those words as carefully as he had carried the teachers. The shy boy who once doubted if anyone even saw him now realized that words connected people in ways silence never could. They could open doors, build bridges, and remind us of our worth. He began writing more, filling notebook after notebook, not only for himself but with the hope that someday others might read his words and feel less alone. Years later, looking back, Daniel could still hear his teacher's voice clearly in his memory. "You have talent." It was a short sentence, nothing elaborate, nothing dressed in grandeur, but it was the turning point, the beginning of his journey toward becoming someone who believed in his own voice. Daniel came to understand that words are never just sounds. They are seeds, and depending on how they're spoken, they can either wither or bloom. A careless remark can crush a spirit, while a kind sentence can change the direction of a life. His story was proof of that. And so, he lived with the lesson firmly rooted in his heart. Words have the power to build or to break, and when chosen with care, they can give someone the courage to rise. There are moments in life when we realize how fragile the human heart truly is, and how easily it can be lifted or broken by something as simple as words. Daniel's journey is a reminder that the things we say may seem small to us, but to someone else, they can mean everything. Perhaps today, your words could be the seed of courage in another person's life. Choose them with kindness, speak them with care, and let them carry light. If this story touched you, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more heartfelt stories.